Welcome to the Fantasy NASCAR podcast brought to you by RaceForThePrize.com. Get your fantasy NASCAR spreadsheet now. Venmo, PayPal, Cash App. It's in the description below. Month of September, $30. Atlanta Super Speedway playoffs. You know what that means. We are chasing place differential. Get on board, sign up. You get to make the decision right now. Are you trying to build the optimal lineup, or are you just trying to build the winning lineup and hoping that the winning lineup does pretty well and ultimately you take down the GPP? That's my strategy. That's my advice. I'm not chasing the optimal lineup. Well, what's the difference between chasing opto versus just trying to build a winning lineup? Well, it's very obvious. It's very clear. If you are trying to build the perfect lineup, and you think that there's only one way to separate, you're going to chase hog plays. And we have seen hogs or lap leaders, dominators, if you will, at Atlanta end up in previous optimal lineups. You can check out the video I recorded earlier this week. But in a lot of those situations, in those scenarios and circumstances, if you missed on that guy, you really didn't miss out on that many points because there were other place differential plays that scored in the top 10. And yeah, you may have lost the GPP possibly because you didn't have the number one guy that led the most laps. But we have seen that plenty of drivers score place differential points that are equal to the guy that leads the most laps. And it's much harder to predict who's going to lead the most laps in a pack race, especially in a pack race at Atlanta, which is pretty new. It's a lot easier and a lot safer to chase the sure and steady place differential drivers. You decide now. You're going to try to build opto, then you're probably going to have 4 or 5 place differential and 1 or 2 drivers that you think that will lead the most laps. And that driver could also end up being a place differential guy as well. So I think it's obvious that I'm going to stick to what I was doing earlier this week, which is I'm chasing PD. You're chasing yourself. I want place differential. I don't want lap leaders. And so you can see on the spreadsheet, if we just look at hog points or throw them out, and we're only calculating based on finishing position and place differential, and we do not factor in fast laps and laps led, then the maximum power of points, if Michael McDowell scores first, 45 points. The cut line that we have seen at Atlanta has been 53. So he is 8 points away from the cut line without hog points. He has to lead laps. And the same can be said. Ryan Blaney, Todd Gilliland, Josh Berry, Austin Cindric, Kyle Larson. If they are lap leaders, if they are hogs, then yes, they will end up in the opto. They'll end up in the winning lineup. But I'm not going to try to predict who's going to lead the most laps at Atlanta. I'm going to take 6 place differential. And if I can get my 6 to survive this race and get into the top 10, I think I will be sitting pretty. And I'm not going to worry about someone else who chased one of these guys up towards the front. You can see right there that if we take out the hog points, they just can't score. 45 points for McDowell. That's 29th best. 46, 47, 42 for Berry if we project him to finish third. 49, 50. And you can give them, I mean, obviously, this is a maximum projection for Logano Larson. They can't do any better than first. And they're well below that 53 cut line. So even if you juice Berry up a couple spots, he can't get there without laps led. The first driver that we see that can get close, but still not there, is Logano at 51. I'm sure he's getting some fast lap points, and I think we could bake in at least 3 fast lap points for anyone in the field. So he technically could get there if we are kind of flirting with that. But again, if I'm just chasing PD, it's not until really William Byron that we see a driver that's getting over that 53 cut line, and he has to win. There is no margin for error. He cannot get second. He cannot get third. Very tough for him to get there. We look at Briscoe and Bowman. They basically have to win to get there, and they're still below it at 50 and 51. So I got them at 50 and 51 with the second place. But if they can get to first, then they can get above that 53 cut line. Harrison Burton has to finish third to get above the cut line. If he wins, he gets 56. And I'm fine giving him a winning projection considering he just won at Daytona. But that was a rare situation. He has no room for error. If he finishes fourth, he's likely not going to make it. Now, yeah, maybe baking some fast laps, he could get there, but it's not as likely as the other guys we're going to see when we go down below Burton. Gregson and Hemrick, I don't see much from them, but it's a plate race. Not really in love with them. If they finish fifth, they're well below the cut line. But if they could get to second, they get above the cut line. No room for error. Gregson and Hemrick have to win or finish second. I'm not betting on that. Now we get to Kyle Busch. If he finishes third, he hits the cut line. No room for error for him either. He's got to get a podium. He could do it. This is where the drivers start to get on the board when we go from 15th. Obviously at Atlanta and Daytona, or Daytona and Talladega, we chase place differential a little bit more. Atlanta, we have seen the cut line in terms of where drivers start closer to the 20s, in the teens. Whereas at Daytona and Talladega, we feel comfortable with drivers from 25th to 30th, and sometimes even further back from lesser drivers. Here, 15's a fine place to start. And then it's going to get more appealing as we go. Chase Elliott, if he wins, he gets 60. But he can finish as low as 5. A top 5 from Chase Elliott. When we're throwing out hog points, they'll win some fast laps. Buescher, same thing. First to fifth, very capable. We have much more room for error as we start to slide back. 1 to 6 for Ross. 1 to 6 for Brad. This is the real sweet spot. Ty Gibbs. I got him finishing fifth, 54 points. I mean, you could juice that up. No problem doing that. But again, he just has to get to 6th place from 20th on the board. Ryan Preece, not as appealing, but again, capable of a 6th place finish. Truex just got to get to 7. Reddick got to get to 7 to hit that 53 cut line. And this is where a lot of the plays are going to come from. Bubba Wallace only has to get an 8th place finish. Same for Corey LaJoie and Christopher Bell. Can these guys all top 10? Yes. Stenhouse, put him in the mix. SVG's got to get a top 10 to get above that 53 cut line. I don't think he gets there. I don't feel confident that he can get there. He could. I would much rather go with Justin Haley. But again, I'd rather take Bell in a car that probably is superior at a track where handling and speed kind of matter. I'm not going to sit here and debate who's going to trim out versus who's going to put more downforce, which will help him at a trickier Atlanta, because as I mentioned in the podcast earlier this week, Brad Keselowski put downforce in his car preparing for the race and didn't trim out and still got caught in a wreck. You run into other people's problems. If you didn't trim out and someone else trimmed out and they spin out and take you out, then what did it matter? All that matters is we're chasing place differential and hoping that we can pick 6 drivers that make it to the end. And I'll add a little bit of a caveat that it's not just 6 randos. I would like to get 6 that have quality cars, maybe have been good at Atlanta, maybe are running hot at the super speedways at the moment. You can see the data on your screen. But you don't have to. You can blindly chase place differential from 15 to 27. And I think that is where the bulk of the plays should come from. Well, obviously, we'll get to another guy down here that's going to be appealing as well. Hamlin will be super popular, and he only has to get to 15th, which is pretty appealing because we did see, and we have seen at Atlanta, not necessarily the big one, but plenty of spin outs and mini wrecks, and drivers are shuffled around. Their car loses some speed because of those wrecks, but they're able to continue and finish the race. And you could see Hamlin getting involved in an incident that limits his car, or he just doesn't get the good track position at the end, cause of different wrecks and cautions and restarts. And despite getting into those wrecks, he only has to get to 15th, which he can do in a damaged car. Eric Jones only has to get to 12th? And we have seen him do that in 4 of the 5 Atlanta races, 11, 8, 4, 14, those will all work. Daniel Suarez and Trackhouse have been pretty good for whatever reason. And Ross Chastain at Atlanta, 1, 2, 6, 4. He's only got to get an 11th place finish. Again, he could get involved in an incident and still probably have enough juice to get a damaged vehicle into that spot. That's my philosophy. Those are the drivers that I like today. I hope that this helps you. I hope that the Fantasy NASCAR Spreadsheet is helping you. Venmo, PayPal, Cash App. You can just give a tip if you want. Or you can purchase a spreadsheet for the month of September for $30. Please like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Share the video with everybody else. Have a wonderful Sunday watching the Atlanta Superspeedway race. Have a good one, guys.